I get asked all the time how the rebuilding effort in LA is going. And last week I had a chance to do an in-depth analysis. I had a client call me about selling a property in Altadena. And I took the time to not just look at that property, but the numbers. I was shocked at what I saw. 6 months or so, maybe 7 months after the wildfires have ended, Los Angeles is still anything from resembling a recovery. There's permits are stalled, insurance payouts are being delayed, costs are going up for a variety of reasons. And a complete rebuild just looks increasingly impossible, if not unlikely or delayed. At best, substantial rebuilding is going to take a long time. There are a few rays of good news, and I'll put those in as well. I'm Bill Gross. This is my weekly real estate market update. So rebuilding is underway in LA, and it's gone very slow. And I pulled the numbers up, and I thought I'd first tell you the numbers, then show you. City of L.A., the Palisades area, 6,200 or so homes have been damaged. 650 permits have been applied for, and about 165 have been issued. And then so that's now there's been some new changes to streamline the process supposedly, so we'll see if that gets faster. City of Malibu, 700 homes damaged, not one permit issued. City of Malibu is just in complete turmoil. And then the unincorporated LA County area, more the Altadena side of the fires, again about 6,600 homes destroyed. 1,385 homes have had applications, about a quarter of them so far, and of those, only 169 have been approved. So we're a long ways. Let's take a look at the numbers on a chart. And the left side is the City of LA, the Palisades area. The right side is the County of LA. So they're about similar. And this is first of all, this is an interesting factoid I didn't realize was over half are in the county, not the city, which means that Mayor Bass has nothing to do with it. And I'm not sure who's taking the lead there, whether there's a county leader on the board of supervisors or the governor is taking charge. Certainly there's no one person who's leading the charge in the county area, though the county is doing maybe a little better than the city. And then you can see the permits applied for, the small number next to it, and the small and almost unbelievable number to see as the numbers are actually have been approved. So the overall picture is, I think, a very, very slow start. Now, I took these numbers and I projected out, well, what if we average this pace and double this pace? What would it look like? And so what that tells us, over a 5-year total by January 2030, in the city of LA, we'd end up with about 1,600 homes, and unincorporated about another 1,600. So we have about 3,100 of the 13,000 or so, about 10% would be rebuild. And then 10 years projecting out again, even if we do a double pace, where was that? I did that somewhere else down below. But if I did a double pace, if we doubled the pace of approvals, we end up with a full rebuild in 21 years in the city of LA, 27 years in unincorporated. And then sadly, mathematically, you can't even calculate Malibu because Malibu hasn't approved one yet. Interesting article in The Real Deal outlines how the employees have turned over there. I think the job of getting control of that is insurmountable. They have a new manager who starts this month, I think in a few weeks. But you're going to have people who desperately want to rebuild their homes, who have wealth tied up in those homes, and then you have other people who never want to see homes rebuilt again, and then the politics of that. And so as a result, Malibu, from what I can tell, has not one permit approved. Now, not the Malibu area in LA County. We're talking about specifically the city of Malibu. So again, that remains to be seen what they're going to do. An example of the problems faced, famous real estate investor, author, speaker, Grant Cardone, he bought a house famously in Malibu, right on the coast, and it was a newer home, so the structure was less likely to be damaged. It was only partially damaged. You can see all the houses on both sides were burned down. His house is still remaining. But he posted that he was informed by FEMA that if you're required to spend more than 50% of the value of your home, you have to do a whole new structure to the new floodwater requirements. And he's saying that his home, he'd have to raise 3 to 4 feet at a cost of $40 to $50 million to raise this house. His house was one of the best constructed before the fire, that's why it lasted. And yet the new standards are even higher for him. And so this is the battle that Malibu is going to see, which is on the coast. There are people who literally never want to see those homes rebuilt again or are so strict they never will be. Now, a couple items of good news here. And the bad news is, just to summarize, the pace we're headed, Malibu will never build. Hopefully they'll get their act together and start. LA County and LA City, we're at least under best of circumstances for a full rebuild, 20, 30 years away before that's going to happen. That's the pace we're headed. Even if we double that pace, it's 21 to 27 years. Okay, but there's some good news. Let me share a little bit. One is lot sales. I was surprised when I went on the MLS to see. Altadena had over 100, what's the actual number? Here we go. 172 homes sold, lots, in this time period this year versus 6 the prior year. So in Altadena, there is a market for people buying the burned down lots with the idea of rebuilding. Now, there's some news articles saying there are a lot of Chinese people buying them. This area has a lot of Chinese Americans, a lot of Taiwanese who moved here, a lot of Chinese who moved here over the last 10, 20 years. So I don't think it's the government of China buying the properties, but that area has been Asian, has had a large Asian demographic. And so I think those stories are misleading. The good news is there's a market. 772 homes have been purchased. And just to give you an idea, so that's more than the permits have been issued in that particular city. Bad news is in Malibu, the Palisades area, only 94 lots, so about one half. And so in an area that should be equal, it's about half. What tells you, I think, two things. One, those houses are harder to build because more of them are hillsides and such. And second, I think the people are voting that we're more likely to get homes approved in Altadena than we are in the Palisades. Now, it also might be that Palisades are much more expensive, and so the luxury market isn't as hot. But we're only talking about 100 lots in a market we sell that many homes in Beverly Hills and Brentwood and areas like that. So I think people are voting with their feet. Good news, lots are being sold. Bad news is we have a long ways to go before people get lined up and are able to rebuild those areas. Also good news, Rick Caruso, former candidate, I have to be careful here, but investor, famous investor, Third Street Promenade, the Grove, one of my family's favorite places to go, and he had the property in the Palisades that didn't burn down. He announced he's investing another $50 million in his Palisades Village. Phenomenal facility, high-end retail, and hopefully that will get, not only will it get rebuilt and improved, but will draw other people to do business in the area. So that's really good news for the area. And also good news, YMCA announced a $25 million project, 2 campuses in Palisades and Malibu. So again, those are good. That's some good signs. You have people who really want to rebuild, and there's people a lot of money behind it. But this is a political battle, so we'll see how it goes overall. Overall, for the average person who just lived in Palisades and their house burned down, tough business. Those lots are going for less than they did before. And from my calculations, maybe half to 2/3 of the price of what they were pre-fires. And the prospects for rebuilding are a lot longer than you would imagine. So let's see what happens. Let's hope for the best, but let's make sure we watch the numbers and we're practical along the way. Okay, overall real estate news. I would say if you want to evaluate an economy, you have to look at both sides, the demand and supply. Demand would be affected by interest rates, which are flat. Again, holding, I think, annual lows. Interest rates were at 6.57 last week, and this week closed at 6.8. And so overall, rates are in the middle or lower part where they've been over the last year and are certainly in a range where we have good buyer demand for the houses available. Of course, if rates go down, we'll have more demand, and that would help the market. And as I spoke about last week quite a bit, interest rates are artificially high by about 0.5% to 1% based on historical norms, which means all things equal, you should expect rates to drop that much over time. We'll see. Time will tell. On the supply side, unfortunately, again, bad news in a sense. Good news if you own a house and you're worried about housing prices dropping. Bad news if you're a buyer is that the inventory dropped again. And so in July, 1.479 million homes are available for sale, down from June 1.536. And so we now have a couple months in a row where we have a summer decline in inventory, which has really never happened. Normally, summer's the most active period, but here you have sellers voting with their feet. Now, the rates might be low and they're locked in. The economy might be such that people have already settled into where they're going to be. There's a lot of reasons, but our inventory, there's no solution to our housing problem that doesn't include building millions of more homes, probably 4 or 6 million more homes. The fact that inventory is declining means that the affordability is going to continue to be a problem. Market overall in LA, it's inched a little bit consistently towards a balanced market from a seller's market, and it's kind of stayed there, slight seller's market again. We were at a 35 on the Altos research methodology. We were as high as 39, 40 during the peak pandemic, but it's been inching down, and now it seems to have slowed down at a slight seller's market. So that's, I think, overall healthy. If you're looking to buy a house, I think you can be rest assured that the market's going to continue to be healthy. If this is what healthy is, of course, one way to really get more affordability is building more homes. Okay, let's take a look at the news. And one of the topics that comes up a lot, I'm surprised at how frequent it is. I guess people are reading about this, is the Zillow Compass battle. And what you have now kind of lining up is certain news lining up as the anti-Zillow and some as the anti-Compass in this. Here's Business Insider. And again, none of these articles ever bring any real information. What they do is they just emotionally push people's buttons to get them to click. Here's Business Insider. Do house hunting. And what they attempt to do is say that as a result of these changes, that our house experience in America will start to look like other countries. In America, for years, we had, in most locales and MLS, were cooperative between the real estate agents to share information. Buyers had a chance then to see all the homes on the market. Agents worked together to cooperate between buyers agents and sellers agents. In other countries, there are multiple MLSs. And so a buyer has to go on to 5 or 6. A real estate company might have to advertise on 5 or 6 or belong to 5 or 6. And that drives up the costs as well as decrease the efficiency. So this is kind of the concern. And you'll notice the article first blames on Zillow that they're making it difficult. We'll get into that topic a little bit more. But the concern is that we end up with a market as bad as Europe's and other countries where buyers can't see homes for sale in one location, can't compare prices easily, and agents have more costs and therefore charge more for their service. So I think that's a concern. I think our system has worked really well for Americans up to date. Here's another bad article. Forbes magazine trying to mislead you and scare you with their article, Housing Market Predictions for 2025. Now, we're already halfway through the year. This is August, over halfway through. When will home prices drop? Now, notice there's called an embedded command. Home prices will drop. It's telling you it will, just the question is when. Well, the answer is home prices are always dropping somewhere. In America, we might have, hundreds of metro markets, and, about 10, 20% are going down, and about, on any time, 30, 40% are going up. On average, overall going up slightly nowadays. But to say this the idea is that nationally we're going to have a drop in prices, assuming that's going to happen. It's only really happened once in my lifetime, was during the 2008 and 9, which was really a housing bubble and a global financial collapse. I guess it's possible, but extremely unlikely, and there's nothing here that really predicts it. If you read the article, this is just a headline designed to get you click and read so they can sell advertising. Very misleading. Forbes magazine, again, you think if you pay money to read behind their paywall, you're going to get good quality information, but you're not going to get anything better than anywhere else, in my opinion. Homes.com enters the fray of the Compass-Zillow fight on the side of Compass. It's interesting. They issued a letter. They didn't do this by advertising it, but they sent a letter out to real estate agents, and a friend of mine sent this one to me. And basically their position is Zillow's bad. Of course, Homes.com is a competitor of Zillow, so it makes sense they'd side with Compass. Homes.com probably has numerous Compass agents who are customers paying them money, Zillow none, so of course they better be on the side of that. It's just interesting that here is a large company that takes a very emotional approach to their arguments, and which I find to be misleading and wrong. I'll give you one example. Homes.com isn't now the only agent-friendly real estate portal committed to your listing, your lead. Are they the only one? I'm sure there's others that are. I don't think that's quite true. And one of the things that they're complaining about is that Zillow's policy is that if an agent lists their home with Compass secretly on Compass's network for 3 weeks, they market the property. Then when they want to be added into Zillow's system, should the property show day 1 day on market, or 22 days on market? And I understand why agents want to mislead customers to market the property. I understand why why Compass agents want to mislead. But as a consumer of that information, why would I not want accurate information? Why would I not want Zillow to tell me, hey, it's not on the market 1 day, it's really been on the market 22 days? Why is an agent who doesn't hide my listings from buyers just to double in property, why should I be unfairly compared with Compass agents who I think are trying to mislead buyers and mislead the market and the sellers they're trying to impress with their good days of market? And I think fair people can have a disagreement on that, but to say that one's right and one's wrong, okay, but Homes.com obviously competes with Zillow. So for them to get in this fight without saying, we're just trying to catch Zillow from behind, and we don't like them, that's really the bottom line here. I don't think their arguments are any more accurate and just a lot of emotion. Speaking of which, on emotion, here's Business Insider, another prominent clickbait specialist. The Zillow blacklist is officially here. Now, first off, Zillow's not blacklisting anybody. They give us, I'm an agent, I listed properties last week, I put 2 in the MLS, and I had a choice. I could put on Zillow or not. I could privately market them or not. It's my choice, how I represent my seller's properties. My seller's choice, how we market their properties. It's not Zillow with rules. Now, what Zillow noticed is that we as an MLS, as agents, agreed to rules. We agreed that either we publicly market properties or we do it privately, but we don't mislead people by doing both. And so here we have a case where Business Insider is calling it a blacklist, and in reality, they're not allowing Compass agents to violate MLS and NAR rules. And rather than fight to change the rules, Compass wants to violate them and then call Zillow a blacklist, which is hardly the case. So again, I think it's really misleading information. Speaking of misleading information, MarketWatch steps in with their article this week. These home buyers and sellers save tens of thousands of dollars. Wow, that sounds great. I'd like to save tens of thousands of dollars. Now, oftentimes on listings, I make tens of thousands of dollars. So how are they saving tens of thousands of dollars? And so what happens is, as these articles do, they talk about one person who did the work of the agent on their own. Now, I'll tell you this. I'm a real estate agent, a real estate broker full-time. Selling property takes time. Like, there's work involved. There's services I pay for, things I do, virtual assistants I pay for, lock boxes I pay for, photos get done. And if somebody's going to do that and not work, they're going to get paid to sell the house and not get paid to do the other work they do. It's not saving money, it's just transferring what you do. But more than that, what this article doesn't tell you is, did they get as good a price on their own as they might have using a professional agent like me? I can tell you that I regularly get buyers representing themselves or coming through these discounts, and I find they're not aware of all the risks in the marketplace. And as I tell my sellers, my job is not to sell the house for what everybody agrees is the best price. My job is to sell the house to the buyer who'll pay the most. And if that buyer doesn't have an agent telling them you're overpaying and doesn't give them a way to analyze what they're doing, well, that's the buyer beware. And so some of these buyers save 1% on the commission, but overpay on the property by 5%. Is that savings? And some sellers save 1 or 2% of the commission and do all the work that I would otherwise do. And are frustrated doing it, in my experience. But they'll sell the house for less by 5 or 10% because the buyer buying the property knows they're saving on the commission, and the buyer wants to put that money in their pocket. So here's the thing. These articles are regular, and so MarketWatch, you might think, has some sort of business insider analysis. No. They just give you this one story about this one client who does it. Somebody in Maryland, okay, one small state, relatively speaking. And they go through the whole thing of how they save money by doing it themselves and how great it was. And they reference this one little report, the Consumer Policy Center, saying that there's every indication that for significantly reduced fees, many low commission agents provide the same quality, of service offered by successful traditional agents. Now, there's no study done by this company. Why do I know that? Because here's their study right here. It's online for free. Oops. Right? And so I read it. I mean, MarketWatch quotes this, obviously didn't read the study. Because there's no scientific evidence here. All this study did was surveyed all the different companies they could find that had lower commissions, and then called some people on the phone and determined whether they're getting the same service or not. Now, I will tell you that when somebody's not a real buyer, they're just cold calling realtors. And the assumption is, well, if you just cold call, it's like I'm buying a car or I'm buying a hamburger, the people will sell me the same. And the truth is, that's not how it is. I get approached by strangers all the time, and I refer them to other agents. I only want to work with people that are referred to me. Why? Because they know who I am. They respect me. They're going to treat me fairly as well. I'm going to invest my time. I want to make sure I get a return for the time spent. And so what these guys are doing are they're the lowest hanging fruit, the cold call into an anonymous office and saying that you can get as good a service with a discount broker as you can with a regular brokerage house that they reached, whereas the top realtors never took their phone calls, never talked to them. So nowhere in their survey is there any real data. And in fact, at the end of the survey, their conclusion really was just that, I'm going to read it to you so I make sure I don't get it wrong. They say that it represents a viable alternative for home sellers, a viable alternative. Now notice it says home sellers, not buyers, which this article about Market Watch was all about buyers, right? And it says this is a viable alternative. It does not say that you're going to net save any money. There's no evidence that agents who charge less net more money to the consumer. Why? Because agents who charge less are probably going to do less to save money and or are worth less. Why they have to cut their commission like any other business. That's not to say that average agents don't overcharge. Average agents should be charging average commissions. And that doesn't mean there aren't bad agents who overcharge. But I'll say this, I work hard for every penny I earn. And customers either appreciate or don't, and they come back and repeat with me as proof that they got good value. So again, I'm not saying that you should always pay full commission. I am saying that it's not as simple as to say because you pay less, you end up with paying less. You can pay less commission and overpay for the house. You want to get, like in anything in life, you want to get good value for the money that you spend. Okay, what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously we covered a couple topics. The LA rebuilding, are we on track? Is that going to happen? As far as commissions, are discount commissions a viable alternative? Are they better value for consumers or not? If you have any opinions on that, please reply, put your comments here, like and subscribe if you like this. And as always, I'm at LAProbate. Make today your best day ever. Thanks so much.